I love technology. I spent over 20 years in technology. However, it's starting to become a love-hate relationship. And today I want to be talking with you about a very sneaky way, one of the biggest reasons why whoever is kind of in that default caregiver mode, why that person is really, really getting overwhelmed. Hey, friends, welcome back to Work Life Harmony. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about technology. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to be talking about specific tools or anything like that, but I want to give you a massive awareness around one specific way that technology is likely totally adding to your overwhelm. But then, more importantly, I've been thinking about this a lot, like, how do we solve this problem? I want to offer a solution that I would encourage you to try if you can relate to what we're going to be talking about here today. I have recently seen a number of reels pop up in my social media that I'm sure many of you can relate to. And it shows a woman, looks like she's scrolling her phone. And the caption will read something like this, where it will say, what her family sees, mom on her phone playing games, and then it says what she's actually doing. And it's like meal planning, checking the schedule, looking at Google calendars, logging into the school, right? I even recently experienced this. I love to do logic puzzles. I usually start my day doing the New York Times Games app, and there are some other puzzles that I like to do when I have free time. And just last week, I was sitting on the couch with my phone in my hand, and it was later in the day, and my husband walked by and he's like, doing one of your puzzles again. And I paused and I said, no, actually, I'm reading our daughter's quarter 3 report card because it's on the portal that I access from my phone. And it got me thinking to my original awareness of this app and technology problem goes back to probably right around 10 years ago when I was enrolling my daughter in a dance class. And this was kind of on the forefront of schools, activities, et cetera, having these online portals or apps, right, that we could use. When I went through the enrollment process, it gave the ability to put one, right? You had to put down the primary contact's name and email address. And of course, I'm filling this out, so I just did it. Well, as soon as it was done and she was enrolled, I got the instant email with a link to download the portal. And it was very clearly communicated that the portal was where all announcements were going to be around any schedule changes, extra practices, requirements, so on and so forth. So, of course, I download the app, and the only way to log into the app was with my email address and the password that I had just created. Now, I know I always try and turn off notifications and all of that. And it was new, like this whole concept of I needed to check into an app was kind of new back then. So it was maybe 3 months later, and I pulled up to for the weekly ballet class, and the building looked dark, and there were a couple other moms just standing in the parking lot. We're like, what's going on? And one of them pulled out her phone and logged into the app. And sure enough, there'd been a notification posted there saying that the teacher was sick and class had been canceled for the day. I thought, oh, like there's a shift here, right? When we think about before apps, portals, and technology, there was either the old school phone tree, right, where the phone would ring in your house. And if a message could not be left on an answering machine, they would continue calling until they knew they had pushed that information to you. And we checked our messages. Or a packet of paper would come home, right? And so you might enroll your child in a class, and then on the first day, or even think about first day of school, you get that packet of info from the teacher. It comes home, it sits on the kitchen table. You can sit down as a family and go through it, right? Information was really hand delivered to us. And then we were often required to sign forms being like, yes, I read this. I understand it. I'm now letting you know information received. Now that we live in this world of apps and portals and all of that, the ownership has really shifted. So the activity or the school or the whatever is doing their job. They're like, well, the information is in there. But now the responsibility has shifted to us, the consumers of the information, to proactively make sure we are going in and looking for it, right? Because if we left every notification on in every single one of our apps, It would just be background noise. We wouldn't be looking at it anymore. Now, here's another thing that's happening, right? So, number one, we've got this overwhelm of how many different places do we have to go to pull for the information that we're looking for? And I was on a call with a number of students of mine in the top program recently, and I had them like go through the exercise. I want you to like tell me how many of these are you dealing with? And one student has 3 kids and they're spread apart in ages that they're at 2 different schools, but they're all in different activities. They're not all doing the same activity. And so between her 3 kids, she says that she is currently managing, ready for it, 16 different apps slash portals that she has to log in and out of for calendars, for notifications, for updates. 16, right? And for those of you with larger families, it could be even more than that. So I only have one child and I'm still logging into 3 different places just for school information. So there isn't even just one portal for school information, which is hard to get your head around. First, there is just the sheer volume of now we maintain this responsibility of checking in all of these places and gathering the information. And then because we have the information, now we're the ones that own it. So there's no wonder why everyone comes to us in the house and goes, "What are we doing this week? What's this? I didn't know about that. I didn't know about that." Right. And so now we've absorbed this role of being your chief information officer in your house because gone are the days where the physical information came through on paper that then you could pass to someone else and say, "Hey, you go read this and plug it into your calendar." I know one of the things I do every year is as soon as the new calendar year for the school is published, I print out 2 copies of it, one for me, one for my husband. I hand it to him. I'm like, "You're on your own. Like, plug it into your own calendar. I'm plugging it into mine." We now each are owning this information. But if it only lives inside a portal, it gets tricky. Now, what a lot of people think of is, okay, well, then the solution is, and believe me, I tried this, like say, okay, now you go download the app as well, and here's the username and password for it. Well, I tried that with the dance studio because I was going to be gone. So I was like, okay, you've got to go download this. Here's how you log in. Well, then all of a sudden it required a password reset. And so what happens with so many password resets is you click either forgot password or they're forcing you to do a reset. Well, then it sends a link to the email on file, right? Well, the email on file is my personal email. So now, even though I'm really trying to share the information with my husband, well, if there's a password reset and he's stuck and can't log in, again, it comes back to me. I am responsible for getting into my email, doing the password reset, communicating the password change with him. There are many places where you can only have one login per family. I have some apps on my phone where it does not give you the option for 2 primary contacts. It's here's your one primary contact, and that person is set up as a user in our system, right? And so all this is doing is subtly putting more and more load onto that default parent, right? If you're the one that is managing the scheduling, the onboarding, all of that, and you're the one writing down your name in primary contact, you are now the owner of the app, which means you are now the owner of the information, along with now being the owner of communicating and coordinating this information with everybody in your family. And back to the student of mine that I talked about that has 16 different apps, that's a full-time job. That requires a degree in logistics almost. And so I see so many women looking for solutions of how do I get this communicated with my family? This is why tools like the Skylight calendar are becoming so popular, right? Because what this chief information officer is looking for is how can I get this information disseminated out into a tool that the rest of my family can look at so I'm not the only one holding it and communicating it over and over and over again. So let's move to kind of a suggestion on how we can fix this. And I saw this tip shared recently on Instagram. I can't remember who shared it, so I'm sorry I can't give credit to it. It was not my idea though, where she was just sharing how to centralize email communication, but this also works for the whole app and portal thing as well. And the solution is, and I love this, and I wish I had thought of this myself 10 years ago, is to create an email account for family, right? So an account that everybody in the family uses. Now, the key with this email account is you only use it for activities slash school, anywhere where information is going to be communicated and you do not want to be the owner of it. Right? And everybody in the family, so if you have older kids, they can have access to this account as well. The key is we're not, this is not now becoming a personal email account and you're shopping on it and all of that. Consider it your chief information officer's email account for the family. So you agree on what that email is going to be, and everybody knows what the password for that email account is, and everybody can access it. This means it's not just sitting with one person. Now, when the time comes to enroll in an activity or download an app, etc., you are using that email and the password to do it. So if there needs to be a password reset, everybody's able to do that. Now, there's one final layer to this that I want to add on to it. It's one thing to have that shared email, but there needs to be the follow-up discussion of who owns what activity. Every activity needs to have a primary owner, meaning that's the one responsible for checking for information and then communicating it as needed. Because if you don't go that following step, you're just going to end up being the sole owner and absorber of all of it. Let's be honest here. Once you've set up that primary, shared email account, then you go the next layer of saying, hey, you know what? I'm owning ballet class communication. I will be the one who checks the portal every week and communicates data out from it. You own the piano lesson portal email communications. Your job is to check on that every week, communicate out, right? And so every app and or portal that needs communicating to gets the owner of it, and that person is responsible for managing, communicating, and disseminating information. And I wish that I had had that tool in my tool belt a good 10, 12 years ago, because imagine how much nicer it would be now to have that one central email. Now we're at the tail end of our time of school and activities. So for us to do all of that and set it up, we were just talking about it last week, my husband and I. I'm like, I don't know if it's a change I want to make now for 2 more years of high school. I might. I'm still considering it this summer, but it is something that if we're juggling multiple kids or managing a lot of different portals, apps, etc., I would 100% recommend doing this. So again, technology is great, but I think we need to have a solid understanding of how much responsibility this is put back on us to gather the information, absorb it, and then figure out how to proactively communicate it. So I would get that one central shared email and then definitely lean on looking at tools like Skylight Calendar. We use that in our home as the central repository where the owners of that information can put all that schedule in there. So now, yes, even though my family still asks me, what's going on again this week? My response is always check the calendar, right? Because I've plugged all that information into the Skylight Calendar. So I hope you found this helpful. And for any of you listening, if you can beat the 16 different apps, come find me over on Instagram at Megan Sumrell and let me know. Because I have a feeling there are probably some of you out there that are juggling way more than that. All right, friends, have a great week. We'll see you back here next time on Work Life Harmony.